What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Winning the Margins podcast. And today I am super excited to be joined by the one and only Mr. Big Ron Partlow himself. Obviously, you guys know that the podcast here, Winning the Margins, has been all about winning the mental game and trying to figure out what are the small things that we can do over a long period of time that are going to help us sustain success. And when we talk about mental fortitude in the space of bodybuilding, there are few people that come to mind more than Big Ron, which is obviously what we're going to be discussing today in part, his journey to becoming an IFBB pro and, the fact that he did 18 pro qualifiers before he finally broke through. And I think that is just such an amazing testament to his persistence and his ability to bounce back. So, Ron, I'm really excited to jump into this with you today. Ron is also the owner of West Coast Iron. So if you guys are ever out in Vancouver, please make sure you stop by. I'm actually going to be stopping in and flying into Vancouver when I'm coming back to visit my family for Christmas. But unfortunately, it's only going to be like a 3 hour layover, so not enough time to get down to the gym. Yeah, I know. But Ron, before we start, where can people find you on YouTube, Instagram? Do you do any coaching these days, etc.?
Yeah, I'm Rep 300 on pretty much everything, Instagram and YouTube. I'm Rep 300. I don't really use my YouTube channel, but I'm just about to start using it again. Now that they have that collab thing going on, I'm like, now I have kind of like another idea. I'm like, oh shit, I should be doing this. So I'm gonna start using that again. But Instagram, yeah, Instagram Rep 300. That's it. Keep it simple.
And
And
if
yeah, I'm
you're,
coaching for. I'm always coaching. Like
yep.
I don't really advertise my coaching. I'm always coaching. I always have a stable of guys. I kind of get them through the podcast and through referrals from other people. And I don't really you know, do like ads and stuff. But if someone wants me to coach them, just get a hold of me.
Yeah. What's the best way for someone to reach out? Just Instagram DMs?
Yeah, Instagram DM or I have a website, bigronpartlow.com. If you want to like get a hold of me, you can like email me through that website, and we're good to go.
Too easy, man. But let's jump right into it. So, walk me through what sustained you through that time period of going through those 18 pro qualifiers and taking those 10
Uh,
second places in your
yeah.
journey.
Actually, it was funny. As you were introing me, I was like, "Oh, it's actually 19." But anyways, I forgot about one. Um, but yeah, man, I don't know. Like it's been 11 years now since I competed, and it's funny. Time just makes there's a funny thing I watched a podcast on the other day, and it was just how time like enhances the good stuff and you forget the bad stuff. You know what I mean? So like I just remember it being like I don't remember being like tortured over it, but I know I was at the time, but something was driving me. But I just remember having fun in the gym. Like that's like literally what primarily occurs to me is I was just having fun. Like I really really wanted to do it. Like I I was like, as soon as I came off stage, almost every year. I mean, near the end there, it got to be a bit of like, oh fuck. But
Mhm.
you know, I managed to close a deal and get the pro card. But there were just a lot of years where as soon as I come off stage, I'd be like, well, what do I got to do? And it was just like right back to like, I might be a little pissed off, but I always remember like, I don't know where I must have learned it from martial arts when I was a kid, but and football and stuff. But like, you got to be a good loser.
Mhm.
Like, and it's not just for you, for your appearance to other people. It's for you. Like, don't create that environment for yourself where you're a bad loser. Like it's when you're experiencing the feelings of like being a bad loser, right? And you realize you're being a bad loser. Like it's all negative for you.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like all of it. And not just obviously people, impressions you leave with others. That's like not even the primary thing, but just like your own environment and how you program yourself and how you talk to yourself. And I always tried to be like positive and just like, okay, like back to work. And also I knew that the work was never going to end. So it didn't really make a difference if I went back to work as the winner of the show or the guy who got second, because everyone still goes back to work. And it didn't really change anything. It's not like if I don't win, I'm going to have to change my workout routine.
Hmm.
versus if I do win, you do that stuff based on whether you made improvements or not. But you
Right.
don't do it based on whether you won or not. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So like
Exactly.
nothing changes by losing really. And I guess I just sort of like didn't think about it any further than that. And I think right now, and I don't want me to get off topic of like mentality of competing, but I just see people getting distracted by their feelings
Hmm.
so much. And like I get you gotta, sit with yourself and like all blah blah blah, all that stuff. But like just like I don't know. What's actually important, and the longer you spend dwelling on negative shit, it does nobody any good and it does you even less good. Like you're just torturing yourself, and I torture myself enough already. So I don't know. But I also just, like I said, it was just fun. I love training. Like I love training and I love the process, and I was still getting excited about it every year and feeling super focused, and I wasn't like distracted by things. So it wasn't like that hard. I don't remember it being hard.
Yeah. And I don't think you went off topic at all there with like the emotion side, because obviously we know when it comes to performing at a high level, being able to manage yourself and also self-soothe after a loss or after a perceived failure is such a big part of the mental game, and just being able to sustain for a long period of time. So in those moments when you would lose, was there ever an intense feeling of negative emotions afterwards when you'd get off stage or get back to the hotel room, or were you normally pretty chill and you could just get right back to the work?
I remember being like really disappointed a few times, like because there were of the 10 seconds I got, there were a couple that I was really surprised by. And the rest I knew were really tight and were possible. And then half of them I knew were probable because I'm not an idiot. Like when you're going to get beat most of the time. Some of them are super close, but most of the time you're like, I know that guy's got me by like I know he's got two poses, and then maybe I got two, and then maybe three are close. I don't know if I'm taking this one. And then there's other times where you can just tell by the judges by what they're doing with their eyes. You can just see in the morning show they're like, and they're doing stuff like their gestures and their body language, like what they're doing. So I think I was smart enough that I was only really surprised a couple times,
Yeah.
and those would be the times where I was like, oh fuck, like oh, and then you have to wait for pitchers, and of course our pitchers aren't as good as the pitchers now. Like we're
Right.
getting like our pitchers then were shit. Like I look at them now, I don't want to post them because they're like the resolution and like everyone looks the same, and it's like oh, I'm gonna post these, um, and very little video. Like we don't have all this stuff that everyone has now. Um, so it's funny. Like I understand. Do we remember things the way they actually happened? Like are our
Hmm.
memories actually even reality when you like if you were to go back and compare them? So like I don't know. I I just remember there were a couple times where I was really surprised, and I'd say those are probably the toughest losses, just because I let myself get ahead of myself a little bit. I was like, fuck, I got these guys. Like you finish prejudging standing in the middle,
Hmm.
and they're like, thank you, gentlemen, and you're like, fuck yeah, and then you get second, you're like, oh
Yep.
fuck, and like it's just that's how bodybuilding is, and I think it's gonna happen to everyone too. Like most of the time, I was good at it, but there's a couple times where I let like the bullshit, oh man, you got it, you got it, dead center, you got it, like that stuff after morning show. So
Yep.
just you gotta be careful. You gotta be careful with that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, unfortunately, I have not had the experience of ever finishing in the middle of a first call out yet in my bodybuilding career. I'm still not quite there yet. But I can only imagine how deflating that's got to be, getting that center stage going into the break after prejudging and then coming back, getting the results and just being like, man, I thought I had it, and having those
Yeah,
expectations. And because that's the thing at the end of the day is like when you're in that first call out, you're holding center stage and everyone's telling you like, dude, you got it, you got it. It's hard not to believe it. And
yeah,
one thing that I
it's
have
just
found, yeah, one thing that I found in the mental game now is both praise and criticism can be very seductive, and it's choosing to not allow praise or criticism to affect your mindset. So
Yeah.
when you were backstage going into prejudging in some of those years, especially if you knew like there's a guy there who's probably got you beat, and I'm sure you were highly competitive in those days where it's like, man, I want to
Yeah.
win. How would you manage your expectations and your mindset backstage before prejudging, knowing that there's that one guy right there who's probably going to win the show, or he's at least got a greater probability of winning, but I'm still going to go out
Yeah.
there and give it my best anyways.
I actually, this is a good question because I have an answer.
Let's hear it.
I would always think of, it sounds ridiculous now, like I'm a little cringe telling what my thoughts were because like back then at the time you're just thinking whatever you have to think to like rally the troops, right? But now in hindsight, I'm like, oh, it sounds ridiculous. But I would think of like kamikaze pilots. Like I don't care if I survive prejudging. I'm going to
Right.
outpose him.
Yeah.
He's not outposing me. He's not going to look better than me in his shots. He's not going to be more of a perfect presenter. There's like I'm going to destroy him in every way I possibly can, and if he still beats me because he's better, that's fine. But he's not beating me in any other way.
Hmm.
And that sort of thinking, right? Whether or not it actually happens, but that just that like kamikaze, like just everything, like just go do. It doesn't matter what happens if you fucking have a heart attack on stage or something. Like it's like just crazy thinking, right? But like
Yeah.
nothing matters. Just go do your thing the best you can, and just that like hyper focused on just performing the best you can, and and oftentimes it wouldn't just be one guy. It'd be like there'd be a lineup. Like top five is like great. Like there were a few years where we're all moved around in the top five, and you're like, I don't know if I'm going to land fourth or second or what. So the mentality I always had was kind of like football. Like just take as many people out as you can.
Hmm.
Like who cares where you land, but you just want to take as many out as you can. If you're going to lose, go down flaming. Like just do as much destruction to everyone else's placing as you can. Like that mentality.
Yeah.
And I know it's not football. You can't go physically do anything, but
Right.
just the mentality came from that. I mean, it was combat, in Taekwondo, it was in tournaments and stuff. And you have to think a certain way. And then in football, we thought like early 90s high school football, we're all watching the program, but almost to that point, a program came out after mine, but we're all
Yeah.
watching like we're kamikaze football players. We're Lawrence Taylor fans and Reggie White fans, and I played defense, and we want to kill a quarterback. Like we want to send someone to the hospital so that it's like high school legend that this team like that. And that sounds brutal, but that's how you think. That's how we were. And so
That's
a
how you
little bit
got
of that, it's a little bit of that 90s football, high school football kid was always in me as a bodybuilder, even though, you can't physically do anything, but it's the mentality.
it. Yeah.
You know,
And I think,
if I'm going to lose, you guys are going to have 4 players in an ambulance.
yep.
Like that type of thinking, right? We might lose this game, but you guys are going to run out of starters. Like we're breaking arms and we're putting like concussions and we're knocking guys out on punt returns and, like that thinking. Just for people who never played football, like that's literally what you think.
Yeah. You have to make the other team believe that there's a heavy price to pay for competing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I know that it's all metaphorical and stuff, but it's just like, the mindset to keep you like trucking, I guess. Looking back on it, I don't know. Did it help at all? I don't know. That's a mystery, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think the really important advice there is like, hey, just controlling what you can control. And the thing that you really centered that last comment on is I'm going to go out there, and even if I don't have a better physique, like I'm going to present my physique that I do have in the best way possible. And one of my good friends of mine, he actually just won his pro card earlier this year. But one of his mantras, his name is Josh Jefferson, and one of his mantras all prep was be hard to beat. Like I don't know
Yeah.
what these people are going to be showing up as. I don't know what body parts they have. I don't know what their competing acumen looks like, but I'm going to make sure that I'm executing every single variable, and I'm going to be so hard to beat that the only way you're going to beat me is if you have better genetics or if you've been in the game longer than me and you just have more
Yeah.
muscle. But you're
Yeah.
not going to
Or
beat me because
you
you worked
actually had a better
harder.
strategy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you're not going to
Yeah.
beat me because you worked harder. You're not going to beat me
No.
because you outposed me. Everything that is in my control, I am in full control of.
Yeah.
Now,
It's hard to sustain. Like bodybuilding demands that you control so many things about yourself that is unusual. Like most people, normal people, they don't think of like what 80% of the things that a bodybuilder is thinking of as far as
Yeah.
like controlling, so to them it seems like, oh, your day seems so clogged up with all this controlling variables, but it's so easy for us. We just get so in tune, like how much water have you had, and what time's your meal, and like just all those things just become so second nature to us. It's not complicated, but it is an interesting thing to put your mentality into.
Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, like that just it provides structure for what we do. And I think that confidence comes from having built up that structure. I think a lot of people view confidence as, if I say all these affirmations to myself enough times, then I will be confident. But in reality, you and I both know in bodybuilding, when you go up on that stage or when you're backstage about to go up on stage, you're on the stairs, right? And they're your competitor number like 16 and they have competitor number
Right.
14 out there. The only competitors that truly feel calm in that moment are the ones who did every single thing that they could have that was on their plan for 16 or 20 or 24 weeks. Anyone who
Yeah.
cheated on their diet or skipped on their cardio, they're the ones who are overthinking, man, am I going to look good enough? Because they know
Yeah.
in their mind that they didn't do the work and therefore they don't have the confidence in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. It is true. The earlier you learn that confidence is is it is completely dependent on hard work.
Hmm.
Like they're directly connected. So if you're thinking to yourself, I wish I was more confident, you should replace those words with, I wish I was working harder. Because when you work harder, you will be more confident. And some people are looking to go to this, but they don't realize that this is the escalator there. Like just go to work, just start working, and your confidence just happens through the work. Like that's where it comes from.
Hmm.
Because how could you be confident if you're not prepared?
Exactly.
Like they're directly linked. So that's if you're feeling unconfident about something, it means you need to do more work. Like, and I don't just mean pointless repetition work, but like you need to figure something out. Even if it's mental work, you need to do something. You need to make yourself more prepared.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to be
So
very intentional with it.
yeah,
So you talked a little bit about that very intense mindset, right? And obviously, you and I both know, like when you get on a bodybuilding stage, you don't get to play any defense like you did in
no,
football or basketball or
no.
any other sport. So all you
They
can
dunk
do is
on you.
just
They
go
dunk on you. Yeah.
exactly. All you can do is just go out there and pose your ass off. Now, you talked about that mindset of intensity that you brought from football, where it's like, hey, that kamikaze mentality. I'm gonna take you and everyone else out with me that I can before you beat me. How
Yeah.
much
It's yeah.
how much of that would you use in the gym during your training?
Um, it's funny. I think about this sometimes. We've had chats about this on the podcast. Um, I think I wasted a lot of energy
Hmm.
by just giving off too much outward intensity. And I don't mean like, nonsense screaming and yelling, but just like I used to get myself so riled up for workouts. I I I had a period in my life where I was vomiting after or during legs for years.
Jeez.
Years. And we didn't understand as much of the science of that stuff. We just, I knew it wasn't coming from having stuff in my stomach because I had 90 minutes since my breakfast and I was trained. You know what I mean? Like that's the type of thing. I checked all the boxes. I was like, maybe I'm having too much caffeine, so I like backed off on the pre-workout. This is back in like the late 90s, early 2000s, and obviously I was probably doing way too many forced reps, and we were just going way beyond failure all the time, like probably too much, and it was just inducing. I was puking on leg day, and then I started throwing up before legs.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh, okay, shit, there's something wrong with me. I'm getting way too hyped up for legs. Like I'm getting way, way over the top. Like I'd be vibrating driving to the gym, like just vibrating. And I wasn't like abusing stims or anything. It was just like mentally getting myself cranked Pantera, just fucking,
Yep.
like I was like that when I was younger, right? And I realized I was like, oh, I'm like wasting energy, like having a hole in your gas tank. Like there's all this energy coming out of me that's just nothing but negative. It can't be helping. No one else does this. Jay Cutler goes to the gym, normal, walks in, says hi to everyone, gets to work. Like I gotta like chill the fuck out. I might have gone way too far here with what I think is required to just work out. And I remember that was like a bit of a breakthrough because that was the first time I had realized, oh, you can like train too hard, right? What's hard mean? Well, in this case, I just mean like I just sort of let the what we call back then intensity just escalate a little too far, and I'm like, oh, I'm probably not recovering from this. And then like in hindsight, my gains weren't great at the time either. Like I was getting bigger very slowly, so it was an interesting time, but I realized that there was just too much energy being like too much being generated and let out, I don't know, that sort of anxiety. And I just quickly made a mindset shift. And I remember getting past that like pretty quickly. And once you realize something, you can't unrealize it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's like, once you know something to be true and you really think it's true, it's like, well, now you have to act like you can't help but act on it. So I stopped throwing up. I stopped puking before legs. I started having better leg workouts. Oh, imagine that, so yeah, that was interesting. I don't even remember what your question was, but it caused me to tell that story.
No, that's great, right? And I was asking about like, were you bringing that psychological intensity into the gym with you?
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, there you go. That's what I was doing. And I just, I focused more on like being just happily excited to go train.
Yeah.
And trying to just tone it down a little bit. You know what I mean? And then I remember like, I'd already been to Gold's Venice and stuff in the 90s. So like I'd already been fully exposed to, by this point in the story, I'm already like fully exposed to pro bodybuilding at a high level and all that. But I also realized that like, I think coming from that Dorian era, we hyper romanticized training intensity and also just like personality intensity. Like that's where we thought like that's what Dorian was doing, right? It was like he's just pacing around the gym. He's just pacing,
angry,
fucking getting ready for the next set. Like, and
those
so there was
Venice are gonna pay.
Yeah, and it wasn't like and it wasn't like we were trying to, just directly copy him, but we were just inspired by the focus.
Yeah.
So we were just like this hyper focused type of thing. And as you get exposed to all these great bodybuilders, you realize like they're just like most of them just are having fun in the gym. Like that's like and now that I'm much older and I've trained with so many pros now, like even when I was still bodybuilding, it's not just all retired, but like I trained with a lot of guys, man, like tons of them. And all of them were like in a good mood.
Yeah.
And like smiling a bit and like cracking a little joke, training hard, have a little like, between chest and buys, have a little 2-minute chat. Okay, let's go start buys. Like they were just like, it wasn't life or death. They're training hard, but it's only part of what they do. And they do it every day. So it's the consistency and the quality of the work that matters. It's not just like hyping themselves into this like kamikaze state.
Yeah.
And then, crashing for 2 hours after every workout because they're so emotionally exhausted. Like there was a bit of that, and I think every bodybuilder, I don't mean to say good bodybuilder, but every bodybuilder that like gets pretty far has a story like that to tell because we all had to go through it. And I think that, I don't think, if you can be that great of a bodybuilder without kind of finding your limit. Yeah. So I think that's kind of important. Like, I think that's an important thing to do is find your limit. Like you almost have to go too far so that you're like, oh, okay, I know where because I always talk about surfing the curve. Like staying on that wave, you know what I mean? You don't want to go over the top of it and you don't want to, come off of it. Just like surf that curve as long as you can. And that's where the gains are and the productivity and all that stuff. And you realize it's more about that.
Yeah. And I think that's such an important skill to be able to master, especially over the course of a long career, is regulating your psychological intensity for whatever given task it is. Because you and I both know going into a set of heavy hacks or a set of like heavy stiff leg deadlifts, that's a much different mentality than going into a set of bicep curls or lateral raises. And I think that
Yes.
if you can learn to toggle those two, where it's like I know that my psychological intensity needs to be at like an 8 or a 9 for this, but I can be at like a
Right.
6 or a 7 for this. And you can
Right.
identify that, not only identify it, but then also regulate yourself to it. So if you need to be at like a 6 or a 7 for lateral raises and you're at an 8 or a 9, okay, how do I down regulate myself? Or if you're at a 5 or
Right.
a 6 and you need to get yourself to an 8 or a 9, okay, how do I up regulate my psychological state to this?
And I think there's probably like I don't have a education like you do, but I think there's probably like I see a lot of things as like there's like a sum total amount of recovery you have,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, if you add a bunch of wind sprints, then it reduces the room you have for heavy squats. Like there's
Yeah.
a limit to your total recovery. So you have this many recovery points. And so if you can toggle, like you said, that stuff, it gives you more, say, energy points.
Mm-hmm.
And now you can use those on your family, your business, your pets, your other stuff. And I think that the really successful people in sports that are successful long term are really good at that toggle because you see these guys that are like managing all these things. They have to be efficient. They can't be kamikaze energy into one thing because that would, by definition, leave nothing left for anything else. So, being the best isn't just about being the most intense. There's a formula for this. It's it's like F1 drivers. They're still taking pit stops and still using their brakes a lot. Like there's a lot of metaphor there to recognize, and I think that I came from the generation. I don't know if it's just the Dorian era that really got us. Um, it would be obviously heavily influential, especially that age. I mean, you got to remember, like I was literally, 15 to 20
Mm-hmm.
during Dorian's, you know,
Rain.
main scene. He would have won the Olympia when I was 16, right? And then, so that like I was in the heat of it. Like he was the champ at the time when I was in high school. He won the
Yeah.
Olympia in 92. I was in grade 11, grade 12. So that era, you're really, your brain is shaped by, your TVs and movie and your idols and your heroes and your Jordan poster and you know, your Lawrence Taylor jersey and all the stuff you have. That's what shapes you long term. Like we even know people like their music tastes like after they're 20, like that's their music for like the rest of their life. Like that's me. Like what is the cutoff? It's
Yep.
like 24. What's the study say? It's like once you're 24, like that's 70% of your music. So that really had an impact on me, obviously. But I think we were probably the worst, and I say worst in a good way, but we were probably the worst for that. Our generation is probably the worst for that. You know what I mean? Like the current generation doesn't have a train till you puke obsession.
No. That the
Like they're
opposite.
not like, yeah, the opposite, right? The pendulum is swung. They're like super careful. They don't want to like overtrain. They want to have like, oh my God, my calcium ions are 5% too high. I got to like take a rest day. I'm not making fun of that. Not making fun of that, but they're just the opposite of like, I didn't puke. I must have trained like a fucking pussy,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's an opposite mentality. And so it was, I think, hard to, I don't know if it was good to, if it's, I like to think it was good because we learned, but I don't know. How much did we learn?
And yeah, I mean, I this is something I talk about with a lot of my own clients who are in the bodybuilding space is emotional intensity is expensive, right? And so you have to view it that way
I
when you
love the
go into
word
the gym.
expensive. Yeah, yeah.
And it's like you can use it absolutely. In fact, there are going to be days where you have to rely on it in order to get the job done, but you just have to know what the price is going to be, and that's going to be, you know, if you use it on a leg day, you might be out of it for the next 2 hours. And if you're 4 weeks out from a show and you have to go home to a wife or husband and kids and family, it's like, is it worth that price that you have to pay? Because
Right.
a big part of the game is like you're not going to be a good bodybuilder if you don't have all of those other areas of your life squared away and doing well. one of my good friends, Joseph Percher, he's a coach. He's also a bodybuilder himself, but he says a stressed bodybuilder is a bad bodybuilder. And so if you're really good in the gym, but you come home and the rest of your life is on fire, you're going to be leaving a ton of progress on the table anyways.
There's um there's a lot to say about coaching people and not having any control over their life at all, because it makes it so difficult to help them. If I mean, I've seen guys like where prep's going good and then prep like stops going good. I'm like, what's going on? They're like, oh, my wife and I are fighting. And like, I'm just like, okay, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't know. I also too, I don't mean to be, I don't want to say like apathetic to people's people's concerns, but I just kind of didn't have any problems. Like, I never fought with my girlfriends. I would just be tired and quiet. But I never fought with my girlfriends before my shows. It didn't happen to me. It was all fine. I'm fine. I'm not like, there just was no real problem. So it's hard for me to relate to bodybuilders that have all this drama going on with, things leading into shows. Maybe it's just because I was so like, I mean, I didn't date anyone that wasn't fully on board to begin with. So that was, I didn't start bodybuilding after I was already married, which is obviously what some guys go through when they're older, right? So it was just different for me. And so when people have these issues, I'm kind of like, I'm just your coach, man. Like I do your diet. This is what I want to do, but you got to do something about this situation and make things work better. You got to handle this shit, or else nothing I do is going to help.
Yeah. So then as you were going through your career, you said you kind of learned how to master knowing when to use that psychological intensity. At what points were you using that kamikaze mindset later on into your career after you realized that I don't need to use this all the time every single day?
Mostly just like some sets on leg day.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, there was a point in time where I was barbell squatting 5 plates aside and stuff like that. So like you have to be like, that's, there's weights that are dangerous to use, right?
For sure.
And there's weights that are much, much, much less dangerous to use. So when you're doing certain things that have like an amplified risk factor, just by nature, the mental intensity, I mean, the more locked in you have to be. That's just the bottom line. Like, anybody can do a set of laterals, man. Lee Priest can like tell 2 jokes and then do a set of laterals and his shoulders will grow. You know what I mean? But when it comes to squatting, that's just the only reason I used Lee, is because I had a joke with him about it. But but like, because he knows how to turn it on. That was a good Lee Priest quote, which is why I brought that up. But Lee Priest had a quote like, you should be able to just do a hard set. It should be like turning a light switch on. Like, there's no reason I can't say hey to my mate. Hey, how's it going? Yeah. Arms was good yesterday. Thanks for the, doing a few sets with me. And then you turn and like, okay, boom, and get under the bar. Like, he's like, why can't you do that? Why do you have to have this like, hood up, don't talk to me? Because Lee was making fun of that at one point. Yeah. And I was like, fair enough, Lee. You're kind of right. Like, and then, look at all the other people that do extraordinarily intense things. Like, I just told a story. I don't mean to derail this. I hope this is okay. I just told a story on our show that I absolutely loved. And I watch a lot of YouTube shorts while I'm eating my breakfast. And I'm a big football fan. And this short came through about Joe Montana. And they're playing the 89, I think it was the 89 or 88 Super Bowl against the Bengals. And they're on their own like 10-yard line with like 2 minutes left or 3 minutes left. And they have to drive all the way down the field and score a touchdown to win the Super Bowl. And they go into the huddle. They got the ball back and they go into the huddle. And Joe Montana, they had a TV timeout. And TV timeout's an extra long break, right? So they're standing in the huddle waiting for the TV timeout. Everyone at home is watching commercials, right? Yeah. Probably Budweiser or some Super Bowl, right? The old Clydesdale ads, right? Yeah. So everyone at home is watching commercials, and Montana's standing in the huddle waiting. They're waiting for the green light to start moving. And Montana looks over and he sees John Candy. John Candy's like down almost on the field. And John Candy was super famous right then. He'd done Uncle Buck. He'd done Great Outdoors. Like, he was John Candy. Like, he was a massive movie star. Yeah. And he looks over and he sees John Candy. And John Candy also was a huge football fan. He owned part of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers up here in the CFL. He was an owner of a team. John
Okay.
Candy was an investor, or was it the Toronto Argonauts? I think it was the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, but whatever. Point is, he owned a CFL team. And so Montana looks over at him, and he says to the guys, he goes, "Hey, look, John Candy." And all the guys in the huddle look over, and they're like, "Oh," and he goes, "Man," I don't remember what movie he said, Uncle Buck or something. Great Outdoors Big. "Man, you see Uncle Buck? That was what a great movie. That guy's awesome. He's a funny dude, man." And he kind of got everyone in the huddle kind of laughing, like, "Yeah, that was good." And then he goes, okay, you know, Y check cross Z. Jerry, get open. Like, break. And it just like chilled everyone the fuck out. And the way the story's told by the guys that were in the huddle, it like transformed the situation. They were like, "Oh, we're just throwing the ball around with Joe. We do this all the time. These guys are fucked." And it was bang, 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 touchdown. Game over. And it was just, it's an awesome story. And I just think about like what Joe did there. And they called him Joe Cool for a reason. He threw 0 interceptions in 4 Super Bowls.
That's crazy. I didn't even know that stat.
He was 4 for 4, won all 4 of them.
That I knew.
0 interceptions. Yeah, just chill. And that's what he did for his team, and that's what he did for the people around him. And I love these stories because I try to take what I can from it, and I try to use it in some way. Like, we should be learning from these people, right? Like, you should want to study these people if you're a coach or trying to excel at something yourself. Like, some people don't absorb this stuff, but I find this stuff incredibly interesting.
Yeah, and honestly, I love that story because, like you said, he used that moment to bring the perceived temperature of the room down, and I think that is such an important skill for any coach because I work with athletes who, they're going into either their first show ever or their first pro qualifier or their pro debut or their first time on an Olympia stage, and they're talking about the pressure. And at the end of the day, like, nothing that you're doing on stage at an Olympia or at your pro debut or at a pro qualifier is any different than anything you've done on the stage before. The only thing that's different is your perception of how big the moment is. And so in that moment, Joe reminded them, "Hey, we're just tossing the football around here." Right?
Yeah.
Like, yes, I understand that
John Candy's watching us.
Yeah. It's like, I understand we're in a Super Bowl, but functionally speaking, nothing is different than what we do every single day at practice. And it comes back to the confidence aspect. If we've done our work over this last week or two leading into the Super Bowl, and if we are confident that we have done the work, then at this point, there's no studying left to do, right? All we have to do is just go execute the plan that we know we have to do. And it's the same thing in bodybuilding. When you're in that hotel room before you have to go out for prejudging or the night before prejudging, can you lean into the fact that, hey, this is just another time of getting on stage? All of those posing rounds that I did in the gym's posing room are the exact same thing I'm going to be doing on a stage. The only difference is there's a crowd in front of me now. But it's how am I perceiving the crowd and how am I perceiving the judges? If I just view it as I'm just doing the exact same thing, there's just people watching. Then you don't feel any of that pressure.
Yep. Been there, done that, man. The mentality.
Yeah.
I mean, I still say that to myself now. Like, I'm just training to, try to stay, keep some muscle on the pipes and stay healthy and try to live long. I'm all longevity it out now with the HIIT cardio and trying that shit. But I still I still challenge myself even if the weights are half as much as they used to be. So, and I always say in my head, like, if, when I get underweight, I'm like, okay, these are just high school weights now. I'm training with my old high school weights. I was pretty strong in high school, but I'm training with my old high school weights, right? Like, these are just high school weights. I throw these around and I just get myself like, it's easy. Don't worry about nothing, chill out.
Do you miss tapping into that kamikaze side of the brain? Because I know that for a lot of athletes, feeling that intense level of drive and focus is one of the things they miss most when they stop competing in whatever their domain was.
Not at all. I don't miss that type of intensity at all. I discovered other types of intense and enjoyable ways to focus. And I don't think I have that in me. That particular, like that physical suffering, um, like get my glutes peeled. Like I just don't. I mean, you got to give a shit. I
Yeah.
just don't fucking care. Like you'd have to pay me $1 million to diet to get like, if you were like, if you hit like 3-4% body fat, I'll give $1 million. I could do it like easy.
Right.
I know how to do it. Right. Anyone could do
Yeah.
it. But like, I'm happy with how I look now. I'm not like, I, I was so hardcore that it fried me. Like I'm not,
Yeah.
I don't have it in me anymore. Like I don't miss squatting 5 plates. I miss looking like I can squat 5 plates a little bit. That's always fun, but I don't miss doing it at all. Like I'm happy. Plus I've also had like massive injuries, and I'm just really happy and fortunate to have recovered from them. Like I blew my quad after well, it's one of the reasons I retired. But after I turned pro, I blew my quad off, ripped it right off the knee. Had to have that reattached. Luckily, it looks great. I had an amazing surgery and the perfect tear, perfect type of tear. It came right off the kneecap with the tendon almost completely intact.
Wow.
So he was able to just reattach the tendon like almost all the way where it was supposed to be and just drilled extra holes, and it's like an amazing fix. It looks great. But
Yeah.
and then
You
I had
your
my hip replaced.
Yeah.
Hit my hip replaced in December. So I had like 3 years of fucking agony, right? So I've had all this stuff happen where I'm just so thankful to have the ability I have now, and the ability to train, and the functionality, and how I feel on a day-to-day basis at 50 years old. I'm so happy that I would have no desire to do another show or tap into that type of stuff again. I still train hard enough that it satisfies it. Like I'm still training to failure. I still train with a very serious bodybuilder who gets up like 300 pounds off season and does like, really heavy leg day stuff, and like, biggest guy in the gym, that type of thing. Like, so I'm still in the shit. I'm just, living vicariously through his weights a little bit more, and I'm still training pretty hard. But,
Yeah.
but I have other things that I like to play guitar, and I ride BMX now a little bit. And that stuff requires like a different type of mentality. It's something I didn't have all those years of bodybuilding, which was I always had it with guitar, but I didn't realize it as much. Was just
Mhm.
that like the benefit of having like that Zen space, and I don't mean to use Zen in like some weird. I don't think it has a definition, does it? But some weird like just a focus flow state is very, very interesting to me now, and it happens when I'm on my bike, and it happens when I'm playing guitar, and I kind of like spent a couple decades not bothering to use it, that flow state. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's not a bodybuilding thing, right? Um, and now I'm like kind of fascinated by it, and that's what these two hobbies here, anyways, are
Yeah.
about, and that's awesome. So I enjoy that.
Yeah. One thing real quick. It looks like your screen is frozen. Do you mind just refreshing and then jumping back in? I can
Yeah.
probably.
So do you want me to hit the refresh button or just leave and come
Uh,
back?
yeah, yeah, you should be able to just hit the refresh button. And for those of y'all watching, I don't know if it's gonna be frozen on your guys' end, but it's frozen on mine. So I just want to do my due diligence to make sure that, the video comes out good for you guys watching. But man, Ron, I think that is such an important thing to keep in mind. And one thing I find working with a lot
I'm
of my athletes that I'm teaching them, yeah, we're
I'm
great.
back. It's good.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. One of the things that I end up having conversations with them about is you need to have something outside of bodybuilding that you can do to detach from it because it is so all encompassing. It's 24 hours a day.
Okay. Give me 10 seconds. I got to do something for my dogs, and then
You're all
I'm
good.
all over this. I'm all over
Perfect.
this.
Do it. And so, for those of you guys still tuning in here, some of the things I'll have my athletes do that are low output but high mental stimulation is, you know, go out and do Legos, right? Go learn an instrument. All of those little things you can do where you can just engage in it and be mentally present and not think about bodybuilding goes such a long way in helping you to detach and not having that emotional and identity dependence on doing the bodybuilding work every day.
My
But go ahead,
my
Ron.
my biggest I don't use the word regret. I just don't. Because remember the movie? I don't know if you remember the movie Butterfly Effect,
Hmm.
right? So like I mean, I've never believed in regret before that, but that movie was like, yeah, see, like you change one thing for your benefit and it destroys
Everything's
your
different.
life, right?
Yep.
Like, you don't meet certain people, you don't get certain up, it just transforms your life. I just have always really been able to live without regret. It doesn't mean I haven't felt bad for stuff. I've been like, oh shit, I really screwed that up. But regret has just never factored in. I just have not I've been really good about it. And one of the things that I guess I would almost use the word regret for is that, but it was more just the way we thought. We didn't realize. But I wish I would have practiced guitar the entire time I was bodybuilding with a proper schedule. If I would have committed the whole time I was bodybuilding, like, you know what, I'm going to do this every week, I would be a wizard on guitar by now. I would have 25 years of solid, consistent practice under my belt. I can't imagine how good I would be, and compared to how good I currently am, right? And I just think like it would have done zero negative to my bodybuilding, right? Zero. I had the time. I thought bodybuilding required all my time and attention. It didn't. It was really dumb. I should have done it. And then also we were so concerned about like wasting our recovery energy on anything but bodybuilding. So we abandoned function and agility and movement, and all of our bodybuilding generation was probably the least athletic of all bodybuilders, because we were the most isolated to bodybuilding, because we were just like, well, I'm just dedicating myself, right? Like it's like that's just, like if you're going to be an offensive lineman, you don't need to run receiver routes, right? So you just don't. So why do I need to jump on a box or like run around and play catch in the park? I'm worried I don't want to roll my ankle. Like we were so, but then it made it like so we were all unathletic. So then when we wanted to do something, we had to like literally relearn how to run, which is something I had to do, which is so weird. Relearning how to run, you're like, holy shit, I don't know how to run. Like I can't run. And when you realize you can't run, you're like, oh my God, I got way too like specified for my own good, you know? So that's something that our generation really messed up. And then, as we got older, we saw like Phil Heath, like bump, 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 shooting threes and like, like stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, he's still got it. Like, fuck, he kept moving around a bit. And then like Antoine Vallant, our Canadian friend Antoine, who everyone up here, everyone in Canada loves Antoine. But like, I remember videos of him on YouTube, like 250 pounds and standing backflips and stuff, because he always used to do it as a kid and he never stopped doing it. People would always ask him, how can you still do that stuff? And he's like, because I never stopped. So as I got bigger, I developed the power and the skill to keep doing it. And then that was something I was like, ah, shit. As I got older, I was like, I should have kept up some like athletic stuff on the underside of all this. It would have been good. And then when I got back into BMX, I had to hire a guy at the gym to teach me how to fall. My friend Tyler, because I remember that being a thing. Like I remember like being like, okay, I'm gonna have to relearn how to fall because I'm gonna fall a lot. So I hired Tyler, who was doing like athletic training at our gym, and my buddy Tyler, and I said, hey, I told him what I wanted to do, showed him some videos of guys riding flatland, and he's like, you need to be able to fall. Yeah. So he taught me, like he got me up to doing shoulder rolls and stepping off of a bench, and the second my landed on my foot, shoulder rolling, you know what I mean? So he had me doing those and training me to move again, and had me falling flat back with the judo slaps, and got me doing some of that stuff. And then I started riding again. So I was smart enough to kind of plan ahead a little bit, and man, did it come in handy. Man, that was so smart of me to just do some preliminary training to move again. It helped so much.
Oh, awesome. Sorry about
Is that
that,
the right
guys. We
mic?
had
Is that the
some,
right mic?
yep, we got you loud and clear. Sorry about that,
Okay.
guys. We had some technical difficulties for some reason. But yeah, Ron, honestly, like I think that, learning how to go through your process of being able to work really hard at something, but also having something else to detach from it can be so important in just creating some separation. Because you and I both know bodybuilding can truly take everything out of you if you allow it to. And we hear so many stories from bodybuilders that if they're not bodybuilding, they're doing nothing. And I don't think that creates a very fulfilling life. It's you still have bandwidth to do things even when you're, 6 weeks out, 4 weeks out. I
Yeah.
get it. At the very end of prep, conserve what you can. But for the other 48 to 50 weeks a year, like you should have something else that you are engaging in that allows you to just
So
be.
I've got a term. There's a lot of bodybuilders that like bodybuilding has this like glorified laziness to it.
Hmm.
And I see it now. And it's kind of one of the things about bodybuilding that kind of like, ah, you know, really don't like that. Looking back on it, I really don't like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Luckily, I was still doing smart things with like my relatively smart things with my time. Like I was working a lot and I was saving money and I like bought a house long time, early. And I
Yeah.
like, like luckily I was doing stuff. I had this weird speed limit too. Like back in the earlier days, like growth hormone costs a shit ton of money. So I was like, well, I can't afford it. So I just won't use it. And I just didn't think about it. Whereas other guys I knew were like spending absolutely all their money to get kits.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. Like, is that worth it? I don't know. I'm beating some of these guys.
Yeah.
And like, and then I look back and like, all those guys didn't buy a house. And all those guys, like they kind of messed up, right? And I never wanted to be one of those bodybuilders that blew all his money on bodybuilding and didn't save his money and didn't have a future. And I knew I wasn't Kevin Levrone even early on.
Hmm.
So I just had enough sense, thank goodness.
Yeah.
And that the thinking your bandwidth was all required was was the laziness, and
Yeah.
selfishness too. It's a bit of like, it's kind of the dirty side of bodybuilding is that like kind of this is all about me.
Yeah. It almost
So
rewards you for being selfish.
yeah, you got to be careful with that long term, and there's periods of time for that. Like, don't get me wrong, like, someone's in law school when exams
Yeah.
come, you're not seeing them.
Yeah.
Like they're gone for 6 weeks or eight
Right.
weeks or whatever's going on, right? Like someone in medical school, they got that, oh, I'm doing a residency for 2 years, so I'm gonna have no life. Like there's all these things people do where that's required to be good.
Hmm.
You have to immerse yourself in it and sacrifice other things. But there's a big payoff with those things.
Hmm.
There's not necessarily any payoff at all to your bodybuilding, right?
Right.
So you have to like think critically, be a little smart about it, that type of stuff. I advise everyone to just, it's the one thing to have a good physical game and a good mental game, but those types of mistakes need to be avoided too.
Yeah. What would you say is some good advice to someone who's trying to develop a new habit, but they struggle with that perfectionistic mindset of if I'm using energy towards this thing over here, then it's going to take away from bodybuilding. How do you justify it?
You know what? I find a great deal of reward and relief
Hmm.
that, and this, I don't want, I hope this sounds right. And I don't know exactly how to word this, but I'm told by people in my life that I care about that I'm an interesting guy who does interesting things.
Yeah.
And that means a world to me because
Yeah.
like I know people that don't do anything interesting.
Yeah.
And and that's kind of to me like that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Like I don't need to be anything. I don't need to be someone special. What I want to do things that other people find interesting and cool or inspiring, you know? And so I get like really happy when like someone says like, "Oh, hey, I started playing guitar again because of that story you did about playing guitar." I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome." Like I find that very rewarding. And
Hmm.
and I really enjoy when, I hear that type of stuff from people. But and I mean interesting like, like some people just kind of go to work and then drink beer on the couch. And
Yeah.
when there's millions and millions of people that do that, right? They don't have any thought into it. And they don't even realize they're doing it.
Hmm.
And like that's my worst nightmare.
Yeah.
I want to do something. It doesn't have to make me money, but it has to push me to focus and try harder and do something a little bit creative too. Like I guess that's why I
Creative.
kind of graduate. I kind of like moved on. Like my hobbies now have a little bit of creativity in them.
Yep.
And so that was important to me, which I guess it was always part of bodybuilding. I always had an art side of bodybuilding too, right?
Mhm.
Like I always appreciated all the physiques for like their artistic merit and symmetry, and I wasn't just a mass monster fan. And so there was a bit of art melded with science in bodybuilding, and so yeah, I don't know. A lack of self-awareness is a big deal, and you got to try to work on that, especially as you get older. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. And
but
I think the main takeaway from all this is bodybuilding will be as all encompassing as you allow it to be. And if you can remain multifaceted, that will only pour back into your bodybuilding because it'll allow you to not put so much pressure on, having to win. And that's the thing when it comes to bodybuilding is you're going to get your ass beat. Every single person
yeah,
has. Ronnie Coleman's lost. Phil Heath
yeah.
is lost. Jay Cutler's lost. Nobody makes it all the way to the top, never losing. And so if you have other areas to have a creative outlet, one, it takes the sting away from the loss, but it also reminds you, like, hey, there's more to life than just this thing that's going to end probably within 10 to 15 years of you starting it. So it's only a chapter.
I think it's important. It's for some reason important to me that I always be able to do something that most people can't do.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's important. Um, Maybe there's an evolutionary thing, like you're not expendable to the tribe. You know, you're not
Yep.
expendable if you have a skill that might be needed,
Yeah.
or something like that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know where that comes from in our DNA, but I always like really found high value in being able to do something most people can't do. And that's why I have a lot of respect for, like trades guys.
Yeah.
Like they do something really important. Like we're all totally hooped without them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then my business can go to a standstill until I get a trade guy.
Yeah.
They have like I don't know. There's something about that and their technical expertise and the way they do things, and people needing them. So there's like certain things I say I have a lot of respect for, and having a skill is always or something other people can't do. I always found interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think honestly that's a great way to put it and also a great place for us to leave off. Because unfortunately I've got to get going. But man, I really appreciate you taking the time to just sit with me and walk through what your mental game journey has
Hey,
kind of been like over the last 25 years.
well, I appreciate it, a guy with your education on the psychology of things. I kept waiting for your face to go like, this guy's insane. Um, but I didn't seem to trigger you at all. So I guess I'm not certified. You're not going to have me institutionalized in the next short period, but I'm happy to know I kind of passed.
Yeah, man, no straight jackets for you. And like I said, I told you before we started this call, like I've spent years working with, fighter pilots and,
Right,
other bodybuilders and stuff. So I've seen the full spectrum of, Division One athletes, professional athletes, military members. So at this point, it's very rare that someone or something surprises me when it comes to the mental game.
right.
I've never heard anyone use that kamikaze mindset, which that I think that was the one where I was just like, oh wow, like I've never heard that before. And I might
No,
honestly end up using that to talk with some of like my military members that I work with.
yeah, yeah. You just have to be prepared. Whatever
Oh,
happens, I'm going in. Yeah.
bingo. But
Like the
thank
good
you
running
again.
a good running back says sometimes you just have to run into darkness.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
But Ron, thank you again for coming on, and it has been absolutely a pleasure. I would love to have you on again sometime in the near future. For those of you guys watching, that was another episode of Winning the Margins podcast, and thank you guys for tuning in.
Peace.